Welcome to another Tech Help Quick Queries Friday, brought to you by AccessLearningZone.com. I'm your instructor, Richard Rost. Quick Queries, we take a bunch of questions people send in. If you got questions, send them in, post them in the comments down below, post them on the forums on my website, whatever. Let's get to it. Starting off, Death Scene says, is there a way to take information on the form and copy that information in a new record? Let's say I have multiple line items that are different, but the data from the form would be the same for each. Yeah, you could do this. I'd recommend this video, which I call dynamic defaults. Basically, you can put a field in the header or footer, put a value in it, and then make that the default value for new records. So as you type in new records on the bottom, it just uses that default value. You could do 2, 3, 4 values across here if you want to. As many as you want. Watch the video for more information. Next up, Watt Jock says, sometimes when I control X to cut labels and put them in the header section, like Control C doesn't work, then I have to use Control Z and do it. Yeah, you're not alone. Somewhere along the line, the Access team changed the way cut, copy, and paste works with controls in Design View. And I've gone back and watched some of my old videos to make sure I wasn't crazy. Like, you used to be able to select just a couple of labels like this and go copy, Control C, and then paste, and it would paste them in there, just as labels. Or you can come up here in the form header and paste. But it doesn't paste, right? Let's try it again. Copy, paste. Okay, see, that time it works. It works sometimes, and other times it doesn't. Like if I copy them again, copy, paste, paste. See, no, it's just not. Sometimes you have to click and then click off of them and then paste them. And okay, that time it worked. So it's wonky. It used to be a lot more reliable, and something happened along the way where it's just weird now. But one thing I did note is that you can't usually copy and paste. Okay, so that time it worked. Usually you can't copy and paste just attached labels if they're attached to a text box, but sometimes you can. See? So you can't copy them and then click and paste them here, but you can copy them and click and paste them up. Nope, see, it just worked a second ago. That exact thing I just did worked a second ago. It's weird. It's definitely gotten weird. So when in doubt, try to just copy and then click and then paste one object at a time. I know you can usually get away with multiple controls in here. Copy. See, now it's not working. Copy. Paste. No. See? It just worked for me a minute ago. Copy. Paste. Copy. Paste. Nope. But it did work a second ago. I just tried it. Copy. Paste. Nope. Yeah, it's not just you. Copy, paste. All right, there's one. I did one of them. So yeah, I don't know. I could spend an hour trying to figure out exactly what the rules are now, but it keeps changing. So let me know if anyone out there's got any solid, better ideas of why this does this, because I'm at a loss. I don't know. I know it didn't always behave like this. I've never had problems copying and pasting objects like this until a couple of years ago. And then it just started getting weird. And at first I thought it was me, but no, they changed something. Access team, any ideas, guys? If you guys even watch this. Probably not. Bolenti wants to know, or is it Bolentai? Is there a simple way to create a form based on a query with many fields, but the user will choose which field will be shown in the particular opening of the form? For example, name, surname, phone, email address, but next time, for a different user, I'm guessing, surname, job, city, possession. Is it possible? Yeah, anything's possible. It's just going to be a lot of work to do it. I would envision a form with a bunch of fields, and then every user could have a configuration file, right? A configuration record in a table, a user table, that would indicate which fields they want to see. And then when the form loads, you could just read in the data from that table and either hide or disable the fields that they don't want. With some additional VBA, you could even move the fields around on the form so that it doesn't appear to leave gaps. Is this possible? Definitely. Is it going to be easy? Nope. But if you want to see how to do it, and if a few other users are interested, maybe I'll put a video together on it, because I could see it being useful, especially if you've got a situation where, your let's say you got a customer record and your front salespeople have to see certain values, right, to put an order in, and then your back end people, like in the shipping department, have to see certain values to be able to ship an order, and your accountant has to be able to see different. It's all, you know, part of the customer record, but your shipping guys don't need to see their, let's say, credit information. So I can see where this would be useful. And if you don't want to make multiple forms, which is what I usually suggest in this case, right, just have a different form open up depending on who's in the database, you could do it with one master form and then just show or hide fields depending on the user or the user group, right? Admins, shipping, sales, that kind of thing. So it's definitely possible. But if enough people want to see it, post some comments down below. I'll do a video on it. Perubicundus wants to know if it's possible to get the database to make that sound from Jurassic Park. I said that in one of my previous videos. You didn't say the magic word, right? Yes, it's definitely possible to play sound files using VBA. I got this video that shows you how to play regular sounds. And in the extended cut, I show you how to play any wave sound file. Now, the extended cut is normally for members, and I strongly encourage everyone to join up as a member. But since I'm going to give this to people who loyally watch the Quick Queries videos, here you go. Here's a look inside the code vault. There's the code that you need to play any sound file. Pretty easy to figure out. And of course, gold members get access to this code vault with tons and tons of stuff in it. There, I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see it better. All right, just copy that, put it in a global module, send in the sound file. You need a wave file, which they're very easy to find online. Just do a search on Google for wave files. And yeah, I've got tons of Star Trek sounds. Like every hour I have as my hourly chime, my master database reboots that runs on a loop every hour. And it plays that transporter sound. That's why I say when someone's beaming in, that means it's the top of the hour. Or sometimes the bottom of the hour. So, but there you go. Benefits of membership. And I'm sure you can find that Dennis Nedry wave file out there. I'm sure someone's recorded it. I'm not saying it's, you know, watch out for copyright and stuff. Don't sell it. I'm not going to put it in this video. I included a very, very short clip from something in a previous video. And YouTube flagged me for copyright content. Which is okay, I understand. You can't monetize a video if you've got other people's copyrighted stuff in it. So basically they said that I could include that clip. I think it was a short clip from Star Trek. I could include the clip, but I couldn't monetize the video. So I'm done including clips. I need my 4 cents from your view. Thank you. For people that watch all my videos, you might have seen I did my little Rick's pool box video. It's just this little cool little box that I made to take up on my pool where I could put my phone and my Alexa speaker in it to keep them out of the sun. And I put little fans and a power bank and a solar panel on it. I was really proud of it. So I just made a short little video about it. I'll put a link down below. But Fuego Esmeralda says, what, no VBA? Yeah, I thought about it. You know, I've been thinking about getting into Raspberry Pi because apparently with Raspberry Pi, you can somehow hook that up with your Wi-Fi and get ChatGPT to work with it. So that's another one of those projects I've been thinking about doing. Has anyone else ever done anything like that? If so, let me know. Post in the comments down below. But no, sadly, no VBA in my pool box. I tried. I thought of how I could get some VBA. I don't know. The Randy Gurr says, I miss doing this kind of stuff. Just about the only drawback I've found since I retired. Retirement is no excuse to not keep learning. I have to learn something new every day. I watch documentaries, I read books, and I try to learn stuff that's not access related because that's what I do all day long. But I do love to learn new access stuff too. But if you enjoy it, do it. Right? There's no reason to stop using this stuff if you like it. I use access databases for all kinds of personal stuff. You know, keeping track of collections and things of that nature, and just play with it, have fun. James Womack says about the pool box, cool project, but he asks, curious if you have videos on home networking or server setup. No, but I've been thinking about it. I've got a whole ton of other stuff that I, back in the past, did lessons on Excel, Word, Windows, and I've been thinking about doing home networking, mostly for the point of I get a lot of people asking me how to set up a shared database, but they need the big, like the step before that too, like, okay, how do I network my Windows computers together? So I have been thinking on going back to the drawing board, doing some Windows classes. I started re-recording Windows 11 beginner level 1, and I just never finished it. A lot of the times I'll put a video or two up on YouTube, and if they don't get a lot of views, it kind of stops there. But I really need to push through and get those out, just so I have a solid library, if nothing else. But I'm definitely thinking on it. Home networking, maybe not covering every aspect, but at least enough to teach you how to get up and running to run your Access database in your office between multiple computers. Spoiler alert, don't use wireless. Wireless is notorious for being bad with Access. But it's definitely on my possible to-do list. I actually got more comments on that pool box video than I thought I was going to be. Yeah, if I do decide to upgrade it in the future, I'll let you know. I don't think I'll be adding lights to it because the whole point of the box is to keep things out of the sun, so I probably wouldn't need it at night. RGB strips and some pirate stickers, definitely. But yeah, I'll keep you guys posted. It's a nice sunny day today in Southwest Florida. I'm hoping to get out there soon for a little bit. But you know, got work to do. Nah, I'm just kidding. I don't really consider this work. I have a lot of fun doing what I do and hanging out with you folks. Oh, for this one, Natalie J. Williams. The question doesn't make a difference. What matters is two things. First of all, I just realized you're using Star Trek names in your database. Love it. Yes, always awesome to hear from a fellow Trekkie. And what's important is right down here. It turns out I asked this question before I finished the video, so never mind. LOL. Thank you. Yeah, that's important. Before you post a question, finish the video first, because a lot of the times I will intentionally leave things hanging at the beginning of a video because I'm going to show you at the end. I intentionally do that to build your curiosity sometimes. And sometimes I'll even do things wrong up front to give you a better appreciation for why you do things the right way. Because sometimes if I just show you the right way first, you're like, well, why do we got to go through all those steps? What's the point of that? But you don't appreciate it unless I show you that what people normally do is bass-ackwards. And so then by showing you that, then the right way to do it, you get a better appreciation for it. So I've run through a lot of these things many, many times in the past 30 years, and I've kind of developed a weird way of teaching things. But I think it works. But yes, moral of the story, finish the video first. Write down your question if you have it. I mean, write down, who uses paper and pen anymore? You know, type it into Notepad or something, and then post it if it's still not answered by the end of the video, definitely. And also, if you're on YouTube, be sure to try to find that video on my website. Usually there's a link in the description down below, because the Q&A on my website forums for each video are a whole lot more involved than what happens here on YouTube, because it's only me on YouTube going through the comments and questions. But on my website, I got a whole team of guys that answer questions. My moderators are fantastic, and they're usually a lot better at answering questions than I am. So check it out there. Okay? Okay. Shadow Dragon, one of my regulars. Nice to see you, Shadow Dragon. With the attendance series, have you thought about having the start-end text boxes default to Monday through Friday dates with an option to add weekends? There's so much you could do with this. There's a million options. I just obviously cover what I could cover in a little 5-part series. You could definitely have whatever the start date you want to be, the end date you want. You know, you can modify this however you want. I've thought about it. Am I going to do it? Well, like I said, if enough people post comments and want to see certain features, I'll add it. I'll add another video on. The problem with these series that I do, I really love doing these little mini series, you know, 5, 6, 7 videos on the same topic, because then I can dive a little deeper into stuff. The problem is the views drop way off, right? I might get, you know, let's say 1,000 views on part 1, and then by part 2, I get 600 views. And by part 3, I'm down to 300 views, and so on. So by the end of a 6-part series, you know, I might get a couple hundred views tops. So people definitely drop off. So while they're nice for me, I love to build, I love to create these, but I might end up doing it where if there's enough people that are interested in a few topics, maybe move it to a seminar or something else on my website, because they just don't get the YouTube views. And unfortunately, that's what I'm doing, is I'm obviously trying to get the views. So, you know, it's better for me from that aspect to make another new video on some different topic. But yeah, sure, that's a fantastic idea. It's the same problem I have with my courses too, by the way. Like my beginner level 1 might get, you know, let's say 100,000 views, you know, but by the time you get to the end of the developer series, I have like 100 or 200 students. So it's one of those things where some people learn enough and then they drop off because they're satisfied with what they learned. Other people just don't want to learn that much because they're not interested or whatever. So, yep. Teresa back talking about my user level security. What do I need to do if user 1 can view all records? It sounds like an admin kind of thing, which are made up of user 1 and 2. User 2 can view only user 2. User 3 can view only user 3. So basically, each user can only view their own records, but user 1 can view all of their records. That's just basically setting up some kind of an admin thing. Now, this wouldn't be necessarily something that you'd set up in your table. This would have to be something like in your VBA. So you'd have to specifically give people permissions to see what records they'd need. So I cover a scenario like this in my full security seminar. I do spend a lot of time going over user group security inside the database. So who has access to what, for example. I'll put a link to this down below. Fred Wild wants to know, do you apply different names to subs that call other subs and pass arguments to it, and subs that take arguments and perform the function? Copilot calls them caller and dispatcher subs and worker or processing subs. Not really. No, I mean, when you get into more advanced development and you're working with different multiple layers and levels of these things, you can add fancy names to them if you want. Most of the databases that I build and the stuff that I teach people how to build is small business databases. So you don't have to get into the very depths of object-oriented proper naming this and that. I don't bother with all of that. You know, I've just got, my subnames are pretty simple, you know, status, or, you know, create customer record, or order, print order, you know, that kind of stuff. You don't need to get fancy with your names until your project gets really, really big and complicated and you're working in teams, and then you need to make sure you handle all the fancy naming conventions. So that's my thought on it. Next up, James says he'd like to see how to show or hide controls, buttons, in a form using a macro without VBA. I try to use video on my form and I get a bunch of errors. Well, first thing I'm going to say is, if you want me to help you with the errors, I got to know what the errors are. When people say to me, I get an error, I try what you said, but I get an error. Well, what's the error? I get a bunch of errors that tells me nothing. So I need more information if you want me to help you. Second, I don't use macros much because macros aren't that much easier than using VBA. You could do this very easily with one line of VBA, or a little if-then and a visible statement. That's it. It doesn't take much. In fact, I personally think it's more time-consuming and difficult to use a macro to do something like this than a couple lines of VBA code. But if you really want to learn how to do it with a macro, my advanced series, which follow the expert series, but they're before the developer series, the advanced lessons cover using macros. I made 6 lessons specifically for people who don't want to be VBA programmers but want to learn how to do some basic automations. And one of the things I cover in more control properties is how to make a field visible or not visible based on the value in some other field. So you still need an event to kick it off, and it'll run a macro instead of VBA code. But I'm telling you, VBA is much, much easier. With a little tiny bit of VBA, you can do all kinds of great stuff. I'll put a link to this down below. But I probably won't do many tech help videos on macros just because I don't recommend them. I don't like them. I don't use them. Sorry. There's a few things you can only do with macros. And that's a topic for a whole different video. But most of the time, you want to use VBA. Back to the attendance video. Cyberman wants to know, is it possible to include a type of warning system where it gives you a notice whenever a student did miss a certain number of classes? So if they miss like 3 sessions, you get a warning, and maybe even a mail going out to warn the student. Yes, absolutely. You definitely could process something like this in there. We've already generated a count of how many absences they have. You could just run another report, and for all of those students, either print out the list or print out letters to them to mail out, or you could run a record set loop to automatically send out those emails, mark put a field in their student record that indicates that they got a warning on this date. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. So can you do it? Yes, absolutely. It's just a matter of if you want to put the work in to do it or not. And again, if enough people want to see stuff like this, post some comments down below and I'll gladly continue the series or make a seminar out of it. Most of the time when people ask me, is something possible? I understand, yeah, you want me to show you how to do it, but I definitely will if there's enough interest. I got to go where the squeaky wheel gets the grease. But sometimes people also just genuinely want to know, is it possible? Can it be done before I waste the time trying to figure out how to do it? I'm the same way sometimes. Sometimes I just want to know. I have an idea and I'm like, is it possible? Can this be done? And a lot of the times I'll build a prototype and get a working proof of concept, and then, oh, okay, I can do it, and then I put it on the shelf instead of releasing it as a video or a finished product. I've got a lot of started projects where I proved something could be done, and then I just kind of set it aside, and because things like this and recording my day-to-day videos has to take precedence. I got bills to pay too, right? In fact, about a year or so ago, I built a proof of concept where I can take a Microsoft Access form, click a button, and then it exports it to the web. And then your form, exactly as you look at it in your database, appears in a web browser. It works. It still needs some tweaking, but I proved the concept. It's just a matter of releasing it as a finished product. So, and I started building an update to my calendar seminar too. I got a pretty new calendar that it's got colors and all that stuff. I just got to get the Google calendar integration finished, and then it can be done. I proved it can be done, but it's just a matter of getting off my butt and doing it. So yes, Cyberman, that can be done. Star Trek nerd reference. Reynolds Air says, for someone who's desperate for social interaction as Barkley, seems like he'd go to class more often, because I guess in my attendance database, Barkley's got a lot of absence. I don't think he's desperate for social interaction. In fact, I think Barkley does his best, at least in the next generation years, does his best to avoid social interaction. He likes social interaction on the holodeck because he knows they're all fake people. It's not real, so he can be himself or who he thinks he is. Because in the real world, he's awkward as hell. He gets better toward the Voyager years, but he's still not what I would consider a social butterfly. Here's a comment on my ChatGPT VBA code video from Katie8Cap Joe. He says, between you and ChatGPT, I'm creating an awesome CRM inventory ordering database. That's amazing. I've already developed one for my tax notary business with your help. The locksmithing database is nearing completion, and then I'll be starting on a database for my rental properties. That's amazing. I'm on fire with this thanks to you. I appreciate hearing that. There is nothing Access cannot do, in my opinion. Yeah, I tend to agree. There's very little that Access can't do. There's very little that I have to port off to something else. Like charting, for example. You can do really basic charting in Access, but if you want really cool, complicated charts, you just take your data and just bloop, put it over in Excel and it can do it. Why buy generic overpriced programs when I can build it? The only reason to buy a generic overpriced program or like an online service is when you can't build it, when you don't know how to build it yourself, or you don't have the time to build it yourself. I know a lot of businesses, they don't have the people on staff to build an Access database for their business. So they go into these overpriced programs where you got to pay a, exorbitant monthly fee or whatever for something you could probably build in Access on a weekend. But that's their choice. So we know better, right? All right, folks, that's going to do it for another Quick Queries. I hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed listening to me rant. Live long and prosper, my friends. I'll see you next week. Well, I'll see you Monday for another regular Tech Help video, but I'll see you next week for Quick Queries 44. Take care. Enjoy your weekend. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button right now and give me a like. Also, be sure to subscribe to my channel, which is completely free. And make sure you click that bell icon and select all to receive notifications whenever I post a new video. Do you need help with your Microsoft Access project? Whether you need a tutor, a consultant, or a developer to build something for you, check out my Access Developer Network. It's a directory I put together personally of Access experts who can help with your project. Visit my website to learn more. Any links or other resources that I mentioned in the video can be found in the description text below the video. Just click on that Show More link right there. YouTube's pretty good about hiding that, but it's there. Just look for it. Now, if you have not yet tried my free Access Level 1 course, check it out now. It covers all the basics of Microsoft Access, including building forms, queries, reports, tables, all that stuff. It's over 4 hours long. You can find it on my website or my YouTube channel. I'll include a link below you can click on. And did I mention it's completely free? And if you like level 1, level 2 is just $1. That's it. And it's free for members of my YouTube channel at any level. Speaking of memberships, if you're interested in joining my channel, you get all kinds of awesome perks. Silver members get access to all of my extended cut tech help videos, and there's hundreds of them by now. They also get one free beginner class each month, and yes, those are for my full courses. Gold members get the previous perks plus access to download all of the sample databases that I build in my tech help videos. Plus you get access to my code vault where I keep tons of different functions and all kinds of source code that I use. And gold members get one free expert class every month after completing the beginner series. Platinum members get all of the previous perks, plus they get all of my beginner courses, all of them from every subject, and you get one free advanced or developer class every month after finishing the expert series. And you can become a diamond sponsor and have your name listed on the sponsor page on my website. So that's it. Once again, my name is Richard Rost. Thank you for watching this video brought to you by accesslearningzone.com. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something today. Live long and prosper, my friends. I'll see you next time.